Welcome to PGurus channel. Good morning from United States. Good evening to you in India. We are on February 23rd here, 9:30 a.m. in New York and 8 p.m. in Bengaluru. Namaskara, Mohandas Pai. Namaskara. Welcome.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ ನೀವು?
ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ನೀವ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು.
ನಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವೇ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಇವಾಗ ತುಂಬಾ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸಮಾಚಾರ. ಆಯಿಲ್ ಪ್ರೈಸಸ್ ಅದುವೇ ಮಾತಾಡ.
Okay, gentlemen, we have to switch to English now. We have a lot of non-Kannada speaking audience. By the way, for those of you, I am not visible, but basically we are exchanging pleasantries. Sridharji, over to you.
Well, we are great friends, so we always use a couple of minutes to chat with each other, and we start this kind of program. Thank you so much, Mohan, at the short notice to join. I think one of the topical issues that is featuring very prominently in the Indian diaspora is the rising crude prices and its impact to the Indian consumer. So if you can just set the context as to where India is at in terms of its specific needs and the price, then we can get the conversation going.
Thank you, Sridhar. Well, India consumes around 200 million tons of crude oil every year and its derivatives in finished products. We only get about 35 million from our own sources, that is ONGC and cane. So we import maybe 80-85%, and that comes from many countries. We have enough foreign exchange to import. So Sridhar, as you know, we have $580 billion. Our debt is only 545. So there's no shortage of foreign currency, no shortage of money to import. We are importing. The prices have gone up in the recent past because Saudi Arabia shut down production. US is got a challenge about exports, and now the world consumption is going up. And the prices have gone to about $63-64 for Brent, and I think $60 for WTI. Now, what are the challenges in India? When the price came down with the COVID going on, Government of India raised taxes, two kinds of taxes. One is a cess, which is a per liter cost, and that is used for infrastructure and for the railroad and rural roads. Other one is something called an excise duty. It is also per liter, a fixed cost, and they raised it because the prices had come down. So we did not see the benefit of lower prices when prices had come down to $35-40 a barrel. Now what happened? Finding the oil prices down, the state governments also raised their VAT. So everybody joined the feast and everybody got a lot of revenue. Now in the last 2 months, we've seen the oil prices go up from $50-51 to $65. So the oil price in India at the retail level has four components. One is the basic cost, which has gone up. Second one is the taxes by the central government, which is a fixed charge per liter. One for cess for infrastructure and called the road cess. Another one is for excise duty. And 42% of the excise duty goes to the states. So the states get a part of the kitty. And then a VAT by the states, which is an ad valorem tax. Ad valorem means the percentage. So the basic rate goes up, ad valorem collections also go up, and the states have increased it. So now in various parts of India, petrol is costing 100 rupees a liter, some places costing 89-90 rupees a liter, because the difference is the higher tariff by states. States charge VAT, I think, between 35% to 25%, and the states have increased the VAT rate. Now, people are obviously protesting and feeling unhappy that they're paying more money. And now the central has told the states, why don't you reduce your VAT rates, because it's ad valorem. That means the basic price goes up. Along with the basic price, the taxes go up. Whereas what we charge, they don't go up. So we've seen Nagaland, we've seen Rajasthan, and we have seen, then one more northeastern state, and we have seen West Bengal reduce the state taxes a little bit. So the prices have come down a little bit. But what will happen in future is, I think the states have to reduce it by 2 or 3 rupees a liter. And then the central government may also reduce it. But the prices may stay put at this point of time. And as last point, Sridhar, India went to a system of open market rates where the oil prices are raised by oil companies without government approval, because 85% of the oil sold in India in petroleum products is by public sector. They don't require government permission. It's a free market now. And that's why we are finding this pain where because of high taxes and high prices, people are paying more.
Great. I think that's a great context. So in other words, Mohan, what you're saying is this, we use here the terminology called price gouging. So you have tax gouging that is going on in India because it's an important source of revenue and it is consumed by one and all. So it is a good way to basically to make sure that whatever shortfalls that you have in running your state budgets, you make it up through this price gouging that occurs via the pricing in crude. So in other words, the percentages that you are saying, it's only 1/3 is close to 1/3 or even less than 1/3 is attributed to market-linked pricing, where the crude prices which go up or down has a direct consequence. Whereas this percentage of these taxes, the government each of the state governments can vary according to their needs of their budget. So if that is the case, how do you then respond to this growing kind of chorus around, hey, this is going to $100, it's emotional, it is sentimental, and so on and so forth? How do you manage this kind of noise in the system, Mohan?
Well, the noise is there in the system. The opposition parties are going after the central government and accusing them of price gouging. And the central government is telling people that, look at the various rates in various states. In the BJP states, barring Madhya Pradesh possibly, the rates are lower than in Rajasthan and Maharashtra, where the rates are very high. So as usual, it's taken a political turn. There are some small agitations going on. And I'm sure the state governments will reduce some of the ad valorem taxes, and the central will also respond. And the finance minister did an interesting thing, Sridhar. She reduced the cess, which is called the road cess, and in its stead put a cess called the agricultural, infrastructure cess, agri-infra cess, to be used for agriculture infrastructure. Agriculture is a very sensitive topic because a lot of people depend on it, and she wants to say, I'm now funding agriculture with this, so why are you cribbing about paying more taxes, right? That's the sentiment that they want. But the price did not go up because of that, because one replaced the other. The price remained constant. The taxes remained constant. So essentially a battle between a fixed rate of tax and a variable rate of tax. And the variable rate of tax goes up and the basic price goes up. So in the overall value, the variable tax and the basic price keep going up. So I think the state governments have to reduce and the central government may reduce it. So we could see a reduction in the years to come, in the days to come. And hopefully the noises will come down.
Right. So you talked about, 2 to 3 rupees or some small amount at the state level. And then you talked about maybe a couple of $2 or 2 rupees or something, which makes it about 5-6 rupees per liter. So overall, that still brings it down to about 90 rupees relative to 100 rupees. While some states, I've seen some numbers where you can see between 80 to 85 rupees per liter, in those states. That's a substantive kind of difference relative to what some of these other states are charging, or what you call non-BJP states are charging. So is this all tax at the state level, or is this also some kind of additional burden that has been placed on those states?
Well, the impact in the last 1 month where the price have gone up is basically because the basic price have gone up and the state taxes have gone up. So suppose it was, let's say 80 rupees, right? Then the basic price went up by, let us say 10 rupees. If the taxes are 36%, the tax also goes up by 3.6 rupees. It goes up by 13.6.
Yeah.
Now 3.6 is the problem because, it's ad valorem. Whereas the central government taxes are all fixed. It's fixed per liter, so that what goes up will only be the basic price. I think the best option is for the states to go to a fixed price per liter, so that whatever goes up is the basic price. And I think there the price increase will be less. And possibly citizens may say, it's okay, we are paying you some taxes, get along. The basic issue has been, after COVID, the GST collapsed, the import duties collapsed, income tax collection collapsed, corporate tax collapsed. Now, the latest news is till December, the tax collection for this year compared to the previous year, I think was less by about 3%, if I'm right. 3%. All right. And I'm sure in January, the total tax collection will be higher than the previous year. And for the full year, even though the budget says it'll be lower than the previous year, I think it'll be higher because corporate profits are at a record high in quarter 2 and quarter 3, which is just passed. And quarter 4 is expected to be even higher because of many reasons. So I think, the revenues will go up. So the tax increase on...
Hello. We just lost Mohandas Pai. Just hold on for a second. Mohandas Pai, can you hear us?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. We lost you. Can you start again, sir? From the point where you just said the taxes. You started with taxes and then we lost you just 1 minute ago.
Yeah. Let me explain the taxes. After COVID, the taxes collapsed. For example, the income tax, corporate tax collapsed, the custom duty collapsed because imports came down, and the GST collapsed. And I think that they have come back after September, October, because growth is coming back. And till December, the total tax collection by right is just 3% less than the previous year. And in this quarter, even though the budget estimates lower taxes than the previous year, it will be higher in my opinion. I think in January, the figures will come out this weekend, which will be higher than the previous year. That's my hope. Let us see what happens. Because GST collections are much higher than the previous year. And income tax collection, income tax and corporate taxes will be higher, primarily because quarter 2 was a bumper quarter in profit, the highest profit ever on record. Quarter 3 was higher than quarter 2. Quarter 4 is expected to be higher than that. That's why the stock markets are going up too, because earnings are getting revised upwards. So I think that will come up. So the increase in fuel taxes in quarter 1 was a substitute for the collapse of taxes. So now, with the other taxes coming back, both the center and the state have scope to reduce the taxes. So burden on people will not increase. Yes, people are getting more upset because they're paying much more. I think we're reaching at the tipping level where people get upset. So I think both the state and the center have to reduce in future.
Great. So Mohan, I think that what you're saying in summary is the tax reductions which were anticipated as a result of reduction in output due to COVID seems to have been offset as the quarters waned and progressed, and the revenue collection will be almost equal, made up in Q2, Q3, or Q3, Q4 in Indian kind of context by way of revenue. Yeah. So therefore, there should not technically be a shortfall to be made up, because original assumption that you laid out was that there was this reduction in GST and there was reduction in taxes. So the states were given some leeway in increasing the taxes, especially in the crude or petroleum products, for them to make up. But that may not be the case as you overall balance the revenue from the taxes, both individual, corporate, and so on. But once this taxation number is fixed and the revenue collected, there's nothing kind of going back, right? So there's not going to be retrospective credits and benefits being
No. You only get it for the future. There's no retrospective credit. Government will never give money it collected. Yeah. They don't even give us refunds on time. But Sridhar, the only problem I have to say is the crude goes up from 65, which many speculators are saying now may go to 80, 90. I'm doing the hedge funds and everybody has piled on cash, are buying heavily, and are becoming bullish. You know how the markets operate. Sure, you're an expert. So I think if the prices go up from 65, there's going to be a problem. It's not going to be a foreign exchange problem. It's not going to be a trade problem. It's going to be an inflation and price problem. Because, if the prices go up beyond the limit, then I think governments, both the center and the state, have to cut taxes much more steeply so that, people can absorb it. So right now, for consumers, I think people are getting upset that is going beyond limit. And even the truckers are getting upset because, the trucks, transportation is 60% of fuel consumption in India. Right. So the truckers are getting upset and the people who have personal vehicles are getting upset. So I think it's time for a reduction. If the price stabilizes at around 60, 62, I think the states reducing it a little bit, 2 or 3 rupees, will keep people happy.
Well, I think that, the futures right now is nowhere pointing to $90. That's one good news. The price band right now is somewhere between 60 to 65. So we are almost in that price band. Now with Saudi Arabia offering to pump and put more oil into the system. Russia as well trying to put more oil into the system. There is this interesting dialogue that's going on Iran, because I think Iran and Iraq are the two major suppliers for India, if I'm correct, by country. Iran discussions should it open up. I know that there is not a very good response from rest of the world because of its nuclear ambitions. So there is definitely going to be an increase in supply. So if that is the case, then India should weather the storm without any intervention from the state or from the center on the taxation side. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I want to reiterate, Sridhar, it is not a question of not having dollars. It's not a question of not having money. It's just that prices came down. Governments, both center and state, sought an opportunity to increase the taxes to maintain the revenues. Now other revenues are coming up, and we're getting a much better fiscal situation. So they have a scope, and the prices have gone up, and the center has not reduced. They want the states to reduce first, and then they may reduce. We don't know. If they do that, I think, this storm in the teacup will go away.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Sree Iyerji, you raised your hand. Yeah.
Yes. Mohandas Pai, I have a question, and this is for my information, sir. Does the Indian government not know the concept of futures?
No, they don't talk about futures. In fact, I had a conversation with a senior official and told them, when the oil had come down to about 40, 45, why didn't you buy a future for the next 1 year? So I think, the public sector supplies 80, 85%, like I said, maybe more. And the public sector is not allowed to dabble too much in futures. You see, well, what India buys is, the majority is fixed price contract with the oil exporting countries. It's based on a formula linked to the current market price, right? And a little bit they buy in the spot market. And, there are many challenges, Sree, because, being a public sector, there could be accusations that somebody is making money, somebody is doing this. So it's a very big issue. And not many people in the public sector, I hear, really want to take care of futures and all that. They're just not geared up for it. I don't think they're sophisticated enough to do it. But Reliance, which is a major importer and major exporter, and now allowed to sell in the local markets, I'm sure they are hedging very well. They hedge very well. If you look at the first quarter results, they took a small loss, a much smaller loss than what people anticipated, and they were quite well hedged.
Mohandas Pai, I regret to say this, but last year, the futures ran into negative territory. It was $50, minus $50 a barrel. If even a person with limited intelligence in the public sector undertakings like ONGC should have approached their petroleum secretary or the petroleum minister and saying, boss, these people are giving us money to take futures. We should blindly close our eyes and accept it.
Yeah.
Are you telling me, sir, that they don't even have this level of intelligence?
No, they have, Sree, they have all the intelligence. It's not a problem of intelligence, it's a problem of the process. And also, let's remember, Sree, the backwardation happened primarily because of lack of storage. There was no storage at that point of time. It's for a short while. I understand what you're saying. Why are they not taking advantage of price movements which are so deep, knowing that you're a high consumer? And why you're not hedging properly to reduce the price? I totally agree with you. It's not because of intelligence, not because of lack of anything else. It's just the process. Being government, they have to go for approvals. Tomorrow you make a loss on hedging. Who is going to be accountable? Who is going to be responsible? These are all the challenges of public sector.
Yeah. Mohandas Pai, if it is negative price, you cannot go wrong. I'm sorry. And also, as far as storage facilities is concerned, the company that would have been selling the futures, they could have worked out an arrangement with them to store it in place where they can draw down supplies as they need. I'm sorry, sir. I just find it very incredibly difficult that such a large infrastructural company like ONGC does not have a little bit of thinking of going outside the box and saying, let's clean up. You know what's going to happen? Reliance will get the best price for its input. They'll buy the best at the best price on crude, and they will still sell at the market price, which ONGC cannot reduce because these, I don't want to use the word, you can fill out the word, people are not capable of controlling their price. So you are allowing the private industry to make a lot of profit because they happen to exhibit their intelligence. I mean, ONGC, for God's sake, I mean, I know this is going to hurt. It probably will hurt the petroleum secretary, the petroleum minister, perhaps the prime minister. I just want to tell you that India keeps missing these opportunities, and then everybody gets paid for it. And I'm telling you, the worst case scenario in this case is just like onion price, petrol price is emotional. People will say that, oh, it is the center that has to be blamed for it. It doesn't matter how much reserves you may have. I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant here, but this is an abject lesson for how not to run a country. You can disagree with me or you can agree with me, but this is what I feel.
So, no, I agree with you. One small correction: it is not ONGC, but Indian Oil. ONGC is an oil producer. Indian Oil is a major importer.
Yeah.
Indian Oil should be more sophisticated. They must have more storage. They must look at futures. They must lock in when the prices are low. They must have the operational freedom. And your statement, Sree, is very, very right. When you have a large public sector undertaking which does not do price hedging and price movements are volatile, it's the private sector which is smarter, which can make more money. But what I find is, even when the prices came down, Reliance was caught flat-footed in the first quarter. They made actually a loss because the drop was very, very steep. And I know even in quarter 2 and quarter 3, the refining margins have not been so large to make a profit for whatever reason. But what you say is right. And you'll notice, Sree, because of BSNL keeping the prices up, some of the telcos made a lot of money. So when you compete against the public sector, which is not allowed to operate in the way a private sector should do, and they are a very dominant player and you're a nimble player, there is an arbitrage that you can have. And I'm sure the Indian companies enjoy the arbitrage.
So, Mohan, I think that listening to both, I would say, India is moving from a collusive system to now a collaborative system. And collaborative ecosystem, sure, it'll be a decoupled free market ecosystem. So I think it's probably an evolutionary journey that India will kind of go through. I think one of the things that it brings out is whether this is one of the first ministries that need to be privatized in terms of taking it from the governance point of view. Because it's a very well established global enterprise. Every country in the world today has a dedicated kind of an energy ministry, which is focusing on imports, exports, consumption management, tariffs, pricing, etc. Is this something that India should look at from a governance point of view to be privatized and more private people being brought in to manage the energy needs?
Well, let me say this, Sridhar. What you're saying is exactly what the government of India is doing and Prime Minister Modi is doing. He stood up in Parliament and said very clearly that government should not be in business, and if they're going to privatize a lot of the public sector undertakings in many parts of industry, they're going to keep one or two to make sure that they have an ability to moderate prices or maybe make sure markets perform, markets are not cornered, we don't have a private sector monopoly. For example, in the oil sector, we have a big refining company called BPCL, right? BPCL is going to be privatized and sold off fully. Government of India owns 52%. They're going to sell it off fully. And that may be, I think, 20-25% of market. So the share of the public sector now, which is, I think, around maybe 85-90%, may come down to maybe 65-70% after that is sold off. So I think we'll have two public sector behemoths. ONGC bought out another public sector undertaking from the government, which is called HPCL, Hindustan Petroleum. And I think they will have a smaller share. Indian Oil has got about 48-49%. And I'm sure tomorrow that Reliance will be a big player in internal refining. They already got a joint venture with BP for oil distribution and oil retailing. So I think what he says is happening.
Well, going back 2015, maybe 2016, we talked about the concept of strategic storage and strategic reserves. And I know if you recall, there were three large storage containers coming up. And one of them was to be co-shared with another country where you dip into that when the prices kind of go up. Is that plan in now place or
That plan has been executed, Sridhar. For example, in Mangalore, Pudur, I think there is a very big, cavern and reservoir created. I think Abu Dhabi has put in their oil there.
Correct.
Abu Dhabi is a very strategic reserve, but I think all that is just about 15 days. And I think storage that we have in tanks and maybe another 30 days. So totally, we could be having about 45 days. We possibly need 6 months storage.
Right.
I'm sure the United States has a strategic storage. Government is working on it, is taking its time. But India is a very big country in a very volatile geopolitical environment where you depend on oil imports for 80% of your requirements. You should have at least 6 months requirements.
I agree. I think once upon a time, both Modi and Trump discussed using the Louisiana.
US, yeah. I heard that government had made a deal to store something in the US as a strategic reserve. I don't know what happened to that. I'm not following that up. Much have been done. I don't know.
Yeah, because that was to be and transported and made available at the same cost, with the cost differential being borne by United States to stay competitive and to wean away from the Iranian oil. That was what was proposed, and that actually drove India's bilateral trade with United States quite significantly. I'll also check it up to see what's happened to that initiative.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, sir.
Mohandas Pai, just a quick observation from the comments I'm getting. A lot of people are chiming in saying that whatever the government does, the left will find faults with it. So what my suggestion, sir, you have more of a clout with this government, is ask them to communicate. If they had bought the reserves at minus $50 a barrel, and if they had found strategic reserves somewhere else, let them communicate it. No lefty can say that India is buying futures at a negative oil price, that that is wrong. You have to be able to counter all these things. There are some of those ministers currently in the cabinet who are excellent spokespersons. So I'm not saying that they can't do it. There's just something missing. I don't know what it is.
No. Sree, government should get out of this business. Whatever strategic company they have should be allowed full freedom, and it should be market related, so they can take advantage of all this. And the government should also make sure that at times when the market crashes, they buy up our stock crude for strategic reserves for a rainy day. They must do that because they got foreign exchange reserves. When you got $580 billion, why can't they put $50 billion and buy up crude when the crude is cheap and store it in the form of crude, instead of buying US government bonds 1 or 2%, right, Sridhar?
Yeah. Well, I tend to agree.
Sree, we should think strategically. India should decide we need 6 months storage. They could be in caverns, they could be in physical storage. Now, the storage can be in the United States, or it could be anywhere else. And you can buy the storage in the United States and have rental. And when the oil is cheap, and US oil is cheaper than the oil from the Middle East, you can do that. And you'll be very surprised, Sree. Till very recently, even now, there's an Asia premium. Do you know that? The Middle East charges an Asia premium for crude. And we are the biggest buyers. China, India, and Japan are the biggest buyers of crude. And the Middle East charges a premium compared to what they sell America and Europe.
India is the third largest consumer of crude in the world. India is the third largest consumer of crude in the world. So, great. That's great. No, I think that just the tax point that you mentioned is very important, because just to give you a perspective, the price per gallon in United States is around $2.60, $2.70. California is an exception. They just like your other governments, they like to make up the revenue shortfall and mismanagement by charging additional tax to the crude, which is very attractive. So we'll exclude California for that reason. So rest of the country follows that price. The point that I'm trying to make is, notwithstanding we went from $24 to $62, which is almost close to 200%, right? Or 150% rise in price. We have not seen that at the gas stations, right? We have not seen it, right? It's purely because of what you're saying is this whole tax component is a vexation.
It's very high.
Pricing is vexation in the pricing of the crude at the pump. And that's what India needs to address by deregulating the whole industry, and things will begin to take its own course, probably.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. One more reason to tell government to get out of the oil business,
Yeah.
and maybe get more private participation. But Sridhar, one of the challenge we face is the lack of strong regulators who are market savvy.
Yeah.
Because we should not go from a public sector monopoly to a private sector monopoly.
Look, I think private sector is something that is determined by unless you have more reforms and barriers from the government point of view, there is nothing that allows somebody to come in. The whole disruptive and innovative economy is about many industries coming to disrupt those established industries.
I agree.
I think India is evolving in that curve.
India is evolving, and the biggest thing that will happen to India is that the energy intensity of GDP growth is coming down.
Yeah.
Because in the power, we are going to have 30% alternate power maybe by 2030. We already have 8% consumption now. It will go to 30% the way we're going. And the railways, which is a large consumer of oil, will be fully electric in the next 2 years. And I think we have got a program now for cash for clunkers. You remember that old program that you had where they're going to scrap old vehicles, and that's going to increase efficiency. So I think you're going to see many things happening in this country, and I think good things are happening.
Great. Sree, Iyerji, your final thoughts.
Yes, I think it was a very stimulating discussion. I don't think any other channel would have taken the time out to explain the whole process here. My only regret in all this is that somebody else is making a lot of money at the expense of the poor common man of India. And that is the pain that comes right from my heart. Because as you see, by April, these price changes will start reflecting in other goods like commodities, onions, and everything. And our vegetable vendors are extremely smart. They are just looking for a reason to say, okay, this is because of this that we have to pay more. And again, you get a second whammy, right? So let's hope that the government has a way to figure this out. But long term, we have to have a process whereby India can be a little bit more proactive in this. I'm not saying they're not working hard, but they also need to work smart. There's a slight difference. And again, people will say, okay, you are sitting in US and you are saying all these things. Come here and do it in India. You will know how difficult it is. Well, we have made changes and we are making changes. We are seeing changes. Modi ji is a man with a mission. I completely support him. And all this is like there's a huge behemoth that is behind, and everybody needs to start pulling in the same direction. Thank you very much, Mohandas Pai. Thank you very much, Sridhar ji. And we'll be back with more such stimulating conversations. I'm sorry for the viewers, we could not address your questions. This topic was so hot, everybody got so involved, and I asked a couple of important questions. I think with this, we'll call this a wrap. And once again, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to PGurus channel and also become a member. Namaskaram.
Namaskar. And thank you so much. Thanks, Mohan, to join at such short notice. All viewers, as I re-echo the sentiments of Sree Iyerji, please become a member of the PGurus channel, and please become a subscriber, and please become a paid subscriber so you can get lots of benefits flowing through from the system. And we have more such topics coming, which will be featured as part of the paid subscriber membership. Thank you.